couldn't walk to your door, couldn't bear to call.
Welcome to the Radiant Enchantress show today. Thank you for joining us.
Today I'm super excited to introduce my friend Jianny Adamo. Jianny and I met on an experiential workshop swimming and learning from the community of the dolphins. It was so powerful. She is the founder of Fearless Love Relationship Coaching and Counseling with a Master's of Arts degree in counseling from Nyack College, New York. Jianny spent the last 14 years immersed in the study of human behavior, relationship dynamics, and spiritual theory. Jianny has been named Relationship Coach of the Year 2017 by the Women in E-Commerce of South Florida. Jianny is a member of the Palm Beach County Mental Health Association and of Relationship Coaching Institute. She's featured in many publications, including Bride, MSN, Glamour, and more. Her goal is to educate, empower, and enlighten individuals and couples to heal their heart's wounds, to live free from pain and powerlessness of the past, and to create safe and intimate relationships, marriages, and fearless love. Jianny is working on her first book, Love Trauma, which shines a light on the dangers of loving a dangerous person. In her free time, Jianny enjoys dancing Argentine Tango and will dance for a cause to support victims of domestic abuse, violence, and sexual abuse, as well as to support families, children, and empower women. So, good morning, Jianny. It's so wonderful to actually speak to you again and see you. It's been, I think, nearly 9 years since we met, and we went all the way to Hawaii from the east coast of the U.S. to swim with the dolphins for a week. And we've just learned from one another that we both released very similar fears during that experience, and it was just a wonderful week. I learned so much from the dolphins and from the other people that were in that workshop or experiential training that we went to. Right, so that was awesome. So it's really great to connect with you again.
It's really great to see you again, Jane. In fact, I was thinking we definitely need to do like a little reunion with all the ladies that we were all on that retreat, and our lives, I think, really changed, and we moved on to better and bigger things since that time.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So why don't you tell the audience a bit about your story, and you were just telling me how you've got a book that you're working on, and also how you help your clients. So that would be awesome. I think that'd be very helpful to our audience.
Okay, well, I am the founder of Fearless Love, Relationship Coaching and Counseling, and I am a licensed mental health counselor and a certified relationship coach. And my focus is love, marriage, relationships. When we met, I might as well just give you the whole loop. When you and I met, I was in a place of transition, and I was moving out of my long-term marriage to a good man. We were just not compatible. The whole issue with children, we were very much divided there. So I ended up, that trip was pivotal for me because I dealt with a lot of the fears of the unknown, and being able to deal with those fears, I was able to move through my fear of, letting this marriage go that was really not moving forward. It was really a marriage where I was the codependent and my ex was more of the dependent, and I was carrying the relationship. I wanted children, and that was not going to happen. So I needed to evolve beyond a codependent relationship. I needed to move on and hopefully find the right person that I can form a family. And so anyway, I went through that transition. I relocated to Florida after my divorce. And this is where the fun began. It was the middle of the recession. I didn't have any friends down here. I just felt very much spiritually led to be here. So I felt very confident that this is where I was supposed to be. In that time frame, I got targeted by a very sweet and charming sociopath. Of course, I didn't know he was a sociopath at the time. And about a year later, he finally hooked me into falling in love. So one of the things I've had to learn is that there is this cycle, and they have this mechanism that these abusive people have, and they are very sweet and charming in the beginning, because usually no woman is going to give any attention to a man who's going to be rude and rough to her, right off the bat. Usually there's some sort of tenderness to them or sweetness, something that they're luring us into. To make us feel safe and secure with them, which we're not. So anyway, I ended up in that relationship with that gentleman. It was an emotionally abusive relationship, and ultimately ended with, I was basically ended up being raped. So it was a sexually violent relationship at the end. So I ended up quite traumatized. In the meantime, I went back to school here in order to get my license. I started my practice in the middle of recession, which meant I made no money because there were no clients. So I was living off my savings, and I'm involved with this crazy man. So I was in a hoopla. I was very much in this la la land. Obviously, there was a lot of fear and insecurities for me, starting over for the first time alone, not having family around. So I was quite vulnerable. Anyone who's leaving a long-term marriage is very vulnerable. Anyone. It doesn't matter if you moved out of state, if there's a recession or no recession, period, you're just a very vulnerable person. You're still discovering who you are on your own. Your other half is gone. Normally, your other half has provided some financial means. They took care of usually half of the responsibilities of managing a house, children, whatever. So none of that is present anymore. And now you need to figure out life on your own. So just going through a divorce in itself is quite traumatic for a lot of people, especially out of a long-term relationship.
Right.
It makes us very vulnerable. And upon, going through my experience, I actually learned that we are actually quite big-time targets for these types of predators that are out there. They know that we're vulnerable, so they pursue us both for the sexual stuff and for the assets as well. So we're quite vulnerable at every angle once we are leaving some sort of long-term marriage or relationship. All right. So I eventually, get my business off, my practices off and running down here. At the same time, the relationship debacled. I ended up quite traumatized. The gentleman I was involved with was a ballroom dancer. In fact, that's the major hook into me that actually finally gave me some interest toward him, because I never had any interest toward him. I always thought there was something wrong with him. I didn't like him right from the beginning. But the dancing hooked me because I am Dominican and I have natural rhythm. I can pick up the rhythm immediately. So I never was involved with anyone who knew how to lead me. And that in itself was magical. So ultimately that triggered, all of our dancing triggered my chemistry, and I fell in love with this man that I had no interest in or even liked as a human being. I just thought he was a great dancer, and that was it. So anyways, when I ended up in this state of trauma at the end of our relationship, my body instinctively connected to the Argentine Tango. So I ended up going from dancing maybe 2 to 3 times a week to dancing 5 to 7 nights a week between classes, practices, milongas, which are the socials. Like every evening, if I didn't have to work, if I didn't have to be somewhere, you'll find me dancing the tango.
Wow.
So I did not realize at the time, but obviously looking back and recognizing what happened, my body instinctively recognized that the tango had healing powers. The tango is very soothing. It's very relaxing for your nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you to release like all the endorphins and like the love hormones, the oxytocin, and all of those wonderful hormones that we feel when we're in love. I actually felt all of that while I danced the tango. So actually that created this platform for me, so I can find joy, pleasure, and peace and contentment in the midst of a very chaotic life. Because once you go through a trauma, especially an intimate trauma with someone that has just betrayed you so intimately, your body goes into almost like a convulsion. Like your body doesn't know what the heck is going on. Your brain is going sideways and upside down. You lose trust in yourself and your ability to even figure out who's trustworthy. You are double guessing yourself. You sound scattered half the times because you don't trust yourself. You're in full self-doubt. It's all about you no longer trusting yourself once you go through this type of betrayal. So you go through a lot of anxiety, a lot of post-traumatic stress. So the tango actually provided me this nest, let's say, for me to actually feel safe. So anyways, fast forwarding, I decided in the midst of my grief that I would write a book. And this is the book that will be hopefully released this year because it's now in beta. So the book is called Love Trauma, and it's called Love Trauma. Right now the title is 7 Tango Lessons for emotionally and sexually recovering from emotionally and sexually abusive relationships with narcissists, sociopaths, and other toxic people. The book target audience would be women who have been abused emotionally or sexually and or both, because usually these abusive characters do not allow their women to say no. They will find a way to turn the no into a yes, even when we're crying in their arms and saying, we don't want this anymore, we're done, because that's what happened to me. So that's what happens when we're involved with these dangerous men, and we don't even know, because when we're blinded by the love, and that's what happens. We are releasing oxytocin, we're releasing all this reward system in the brain that says, well, we're in love, he loves me, I love him, but it's not true. You're being dangled, you're being controlled, you're being dominated, and you don't know that this is happening. It's just so diabolical. This is why it takes us so long to come and report. We're so confused. We don't even know what happened. How are we supposed to explain that to a courtroom? Well, I don't even know how this happened. So you have to go through like the therapy. You have to read books on trauma. You need to understand what a narcissist is, what sociopaths are, what sexual predators, how they groom you. You need to be fully educated so that your brain finally understands what happens. And that's what I ended up doing. I went through, obviously, my traumatic stress. I went through the grief. I educated myself. I went through therapy. And in the midst of the grief, I decided I would write this book. So as I wrote this book, it helped me to put the pieces together of what actually had happened in my own relationship. It is a fantasy. It's a mixture of my grief and fantasy. So there's some real things in there, and there's fantasy things. So it's what happens when we're in grief. The brain goes into a place of fantasy. So what a better way to put this into a book? So I'm using the book to help re-educate and help enlighten the victims of how this could have happened. How did you end up caught up with a dangerous person and you didn't even understand that? You didn't even know. We don't know.
Right.
Absolutely clueless that this person is dangerous and that they're not trustworthy. Be with them. So that's the journey that this book takes the reader to understand, to peel away the layers of the onion, to see the red flags, to see all the things that were missed prior to the final ending. Or the grand divorce, because usually when you go through divorce with one of these characters, it is not easy. And yes, usually the ending of the relationship becomes way worse. That's what happened to me. For me, it was because I was finally done. That's why I got raped. I was done with the relationship. I did not want any more part of it, because I realized it was going nowhere and it was just not healthy. So at that point, because I was finally done, that's when he ultimately betrayed me in the way that he did. And I figure out what happened and why this happened, because I actually thought he was a decent human being who just needed some help. I didn't think he was healthy. I thought he was unhealthy, but I thought he was a normal human being who just needed to grow and evolve like anybody else. What else? The book, I use the Tango Lessons as lessons on life between a man and a woman. So basically the Tango Lessons are to rehabilitate the woman and what the role is between a man and a woman. You know, a man of respect, a man of honor, he's got a role in your life, and he does protect. He doesn't just push through your boundaries and walk all over you. He respects your boundaries. He may want something one day that, you know, you're not willing to do or give or whatever, and you might have a fight about it, but then you guys kiss and make up and everything's fine. They don't just push through your boundaries. That's abuse. So yeah, the lessons on love that I have in the book are to help the women, because again, we're so upside down. And what happens with the brain is that everything that they exploited on us, which was we are nurturers, we trust, because when we love, we trust. Our capacity to love, our capacity to feel confident in who we are, all that gets demolished, because the brain is now saying, well, all of that got you into trouble. You can't trust anyone again. You can't be that confident about all this and that and the other about yourself, because obviously you didn't do such a great job. So, you know, even though it is not a conscious decision, it is a subconscious survival mechanism. The brain is saying, all of that, those things are now weaknesses. All those strengths of yours, they all got exploited. You got abused through all of that stuff. We don't want to deal with this, you know. So everything that once made you happy now create anxiety for you. So now this is why you're double guessing yourself. You're like, well, should I be doing that? Should I not be doing that? Should I be trusting this person? Should I not be trusting? It's a nightmare to get out.
I guess. I mean, I've learned so much from listening to you just for the 5 minutes or so that we've been talking so far. I mean, like, that's amazing. I had really no idea, I guess, how upside down we get in a relationship like that. Yeah.
Completely upside down. What is true becomes a lie. What is a lie becomes a truth. This is why it's a healing journey, and you must dig through it, and you have to educate yourself through reading. You need to go to a support group, whether it's a divorce support group, whether it's a narcissist survivors support group, sociopath survivor support groups. There's a whole bunch of stuff online on Facebook. You can find them. And then in the community, you should be able to find plenty of 12-step groups if you are a codependent partner. The churches offer a lot of divorce support and 12-step groups and stuff like that. So you can find support groups just about anywhere. So you cannot do the first lesson is you cannot heal alone or in isolation. That just is not going to happen. And it doesn't matter if you don't, because I know a lot of the women end up with very little resources, because usually their narcissist was the breadwinner and had them fully under their thumb and controlled financially, in addition to mentally and emotionally having them under control. But there are lots of organizations out there. I know in Florida, 211 is one of those hotlines that you can call. I don't know if you guys have one there.
I don't know.
But 201, there's a lot of 211 throughout the country, and many of the states have that, where you call for information. So if you need legal aid, if you need housing, shelters, whatever it is, you can call 211, and they'll direct you in the right direction. Also for suicide hotline, you can call them. They have all that kind of support.
And your clients, do you have long distance clients, or are all your clients in Florida?
No, I am available globally, because just like we're conferencing right now through Zoom, I do operate through a video conferencing call. So I do have clients worldwide at different times of the year that I work with. And most of them, the ones that are finding me worldwide, most of them are finding me through my video on how to get out of a toxic relationship. And yeah, so these are women that are stuck with some sort of narcissist or abusive husband that is dominating them, controlling them, and they live in fear. They live isolated, and they're not allowed to do anything. They can't work. They can't leave their home.
Right.
It's like they're prisoners of their own home. It is the saddest thing. The saddest thing, and that this is possible. But it is, because once again, the perpetrator is working with our subconscious. They're not working just with their logical mind and just telling us that we're ugly and stupid, which they do tell us that. But they're reprogramming our whole subconscious mind, or attachment system. So we're getting desensitized to abuse, because they come back with sweetness and tenderness, and we're like, okay, that was a mistake. They sometimes apologize, sometimes they don't when they do their craziness. So part of the whole problem is we have to reprogram our minds. This is why you have to go into therapy, so that you can come back to the place that your brain allows you to be vulnerable again and love and to surrender to love, because that is the most beautiful aspect of a human being, that we are vulnerable, we are tender, we connect, we blend with another human being. That is like magical. And that gives us a lot of joy. It gives us a lot of peace. It builds our sense of security, and our sense of identity gets built around that. So this is not like BS stuff. Our sense of identity is tied to our primary relationships.
Wow. So you mentioned a video. Is that on YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so once we get this uploaded, we'll put that link in with your bio so that the audience can watch that if they need to.
Oh, that'd be great. Yes.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the tango side of things, and how you were saying a little bit more about that earlier. How that sort of gets you into a much better sort of frame of mind.
Yes. Okay. So I'm sure you've heard of the runner's high, right? So when people run and they kind of get addicted to it, it's a good addiction. Their body releases the endorphins and they feel like this high. It's the same thing with the tango. Only I would probably say put that on steroids, because you're actually embraced. You have two people now, and you have the man embrace, and you embrace the man embraces you. So you're in this embrace, and it's chest to chest. If you're dancing the Argentine Tango, normally your chests are connected. So
very close, right? It's right up tight.
Exactly. So you are truly giving this person, other than like you're not connecting below the waist, because you're moving and you're creating beautiful steps and artistic creations with your legs. But the upper body, the torso, is completely connected. So it's like you're holding a child almost. You're holding, your lover. It's a complete embrace, chest to chest. And usually we also connect our faces. So the cheeks are connected, or even turn into them. So our noses are into their cheeks type of thing as a woman. So it's a beautiful embrace. If you Google like pictures of Argentine Tango, you'll start seeing some of that, even though there's other pictures that are more of the stage tango, performance tango, which is what you see on Dancing with the Stars. Are creating lots of beautiful like acrobatic moves. That is stage tango. That's not like the traditional Argentine tango, but it's part of the tango. Mm-hmm. So if you were to go dancing at a ballroom, you're not going to be doing that. You'll be kicking everybody. You're going to be more intimate. And so anyway, so when you're dancing the tango, basically it releases all the endorphins, the love hormones, the oxytocin, and that actually brings down and calms down the nervous system. You feel soothed, you feel loved, you feel safe in this embrace. So this is now coming against the traumatic stress that you're feeling, and you're actually embrace of a man who respects you, because if you're dancing, there's usually a great respect between the lead and his follow. So the tango is very therapeutic. I would highly recommend it to anyone who's into like the arts or dancing. Highly recommend to dance and to take lessons of Argentine Tango. It's very healing.
Great, that's awesome. So this has been really interesting for me, because I've never talked to a therapist like this who understands how all of this happens. So it was really very educational for me, and I hope for our listeners as well. I'm sure it will be. So Jianny, how can someone contact you? What's the best contact for you?
Okay, I have a website. It's fearlesslove.net.
Okay.
Fearlesslove.net. And by the way, I have a ton of great blogs on the red flags, on the predator, on how does he groom you, what the narcissist, what does it mean when they say I love you. So I have a lot of resources on my website. So I would actually invite them to go check out my website. So they can go to the www.fearlesslove.net and go into the blogs. They can contact me right through my website. There's a contact us page. They can send me a message. They can call me, whatever. There's also a link in there for a free 15-minute consultation. If someone wants to talk to me, I'm available. Feel free to, fill in that 15-minute free consultation. I'll be happy to consult with you and, see what's happening and what your needs are and whether I can assist you or at least send you in the right direction or provide you with some resources that you should be reading, because you should be reading books to educate yourself. Because for those of us who have not been involved with these types of abusive characters before, we project our goodness and our kindness to everyone, and we don't even know that these types of predators exist. So that's like so foreign for us. It's so outside of our reality. So we have to be educated to understand, that these evil people do exist that just target innocent victims just to exploit them. So yes, lots of resources.
Great. And we are starting up a resource page on our website as well. So you'll have to let me know when your book's available so we can link to it.
Oh, good. I would love to. Yes. Thank you.
That would be great. Well, Jianny, it was so special talking to you today. I'm really happy we reconnected after all this time, and I get the sense that we might be still in contact.
I think so too. In fact, actually, this retreat, I want to hear, send me a link to the retreat that you have coming up in October, because if I'm available, I may want to participate.
Oh, that would be lovely.
At any level, whether I'm just, just participating, or if you need support and you want somebody else to support you in this, maybe I need to be down there. Who the heck knows? So we will figure it out. But
okay.
I'd love to get the information.
All right. Well, thank you again, Jianny. And you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
Thanks, Jane.
Aria.
You are a goddess.
We hope you enjoyed this enchanting conversation today, and we look forward to having a new conversation with you in our next show. Our shows will be broadcast approximately every 2 weeks. We wish you much love and light in your life today. Thank you.